on the market. So, where Total sort of calls up Technip and sort of says, we need some help on this gas processing, and it sort of says, hey, we'll give you, because we have this long-term relationship, or we'll give you a pre-commercial, does that sort of lead to, I guess my question is, joint development work, which then, there's a proprietary product that comes out of that maybe only Total and Technip have, for a while. I'm wondering, what are some of the, is there anything that those relationships create that gives those two companies, sort of the operators, special access to new technologies?
Oh gosh, yes. Probably one of the companies I worked for, CB&I, they had purchased ABB Lummus Global, which had a technology group that was called Lummus Technology. And even though CB&I has now been purchased by McDermott and various things are happening with them, with Lummus Technology and what they have developed, and this is in the ethylene market, when I was with CB&I, they were quoting over 60% of the ethylene crackers in the world used Lummus Technology heaters to do that. And so absolutely, that's part of, and part of what Technip has restructured into is having a technology arm like that, where they'll have patents. They'll own the patent. And sometimes it'll be Total will have the patent. Sometimes it'll be solely Technip FMC. And at times it'll even be a joint patent where both Total and Technip are owners of that patent. And so what ends up happening is, and that's kind of how I think Bechtel evolved with ConocoPhillips, is they ended up having patents to some of the technology that goes into a ConocoPhillips LNG plant. And so nobody else has access to the technology, so you kind of get a bit of a lock on that. And it does give huge advantages, that because then again, the Total, the Statoils, the Exxons, the whomevers, they know the technology, they have confidence in the technology, they were part of the development of that technology. So you will see bids come out that say, I'll use CB&I or CB&I's Lummus Technology Group as the example. You would see bids come out with CB&I, where with one of their big clients was Saudi Aramco. And when they built an ethylene plant, the specification on the bid package would say you will use Lummus Technology heaters for the design of your ethylene plant in your bid. And so those things do give huge advantages. And that is, I think, part of the, not that it was just told to me or described to me, but I believe that's part of the strategy that Technip FMC is employing. And I think it's a smart one.
Hi, this is Anne Marie, and I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit. You brought up the idea that there's a shift towards longer-term contracts between EPCs and their clients, and I'm wondering if there's any correlation with the idea that some vendors or some EPCs are looking to become more end-to-end in their offerings. If you can comment on any shift towards those companies being more integrated.
Oh my gosh, yes. Again, I'll speak to CB&I and Bechtel. They're two of them, two companies I've worked for that do that absolutely. One of the projects that CB&I had, there were two. One was in Peru LNG, and then there was another LNG project in Chile. And the integration on that project started with helping, in both cases, the clients work through the basic engineering and design package into FEED, the FEED 2 stage as they had it, and in each phase there's there's a gate where we help the owner evaluate whether there was value in continuing with the project, and then to the actual detailed design, the building of the plant. We commissioned them, we started them up, and then to prove the technologies, the design of the plant, the capacity of the plant. In both of those cases, we operated the plant for 18 months on behalf of the owner, splitting a portion of the revenues with the owner. Obviously the owner got the larger portion of the revenue. When I was with the Washington group, we did the same in Brazil. It was a plant outside of Rio de Janeiro where the same thing from the very beginning to the end, we operated that plant for 6 months, splitting the revenues with the owner. And it was a ethylene plant, styrene and polystyrene plant where we took the ethylene and actually made it into the little plastic pellets. And we ended up splitting ultimately whatever revenues came out for those periods of time with the owner. We signed manifests. We operated for and on behalf of the owner for that period, for that warranty period.
Great, that's helpful. I'm also wondering if you can maybe comment, another idea that we're exploring in our research is the idea of EPCs or vendors either pursuing, traditional R&D, but also looking at expanding their portfolio through acquisitions of other companies. And I'm wondering if that would be sort of an accurate statement, if that's an ongoing trend right now, or if it's sort of a non-patterned mix of R&D versus acquisitions.
You said acquisitions?
Right. So the idea that like an EPC or a vendor might acquire a company to expand their portfolio pretty directly.
That's something that, in my 30 years of doing this, that has always been happening. If we see that a particular owner is leaning in a direction for a specific technology, whether it's, stripping of metals, whether it's, pulling, sulfur out for low sulfur diesel or anything like that, the EPCs will immediately go to the market, look for smaller companies that have a reasonably comparable technology, and they will attempt to make that acquisition very quickly.
Great, thank you.
So I'm just wondering, sort of along with that trend of sort of acquisitions, another question that I had was about the idea of a trend more towards joint development work. And one thing we've sort of seen in the industry is that there seems to be more sort of Chevron pairing with Siemens on some flow assurance or something like that. From an EPC point of view, do you see sort of R&D shifting more to working collaboratively with the operators as a way to de-risk the R&D, and how do you sort of see that progression of Technip, FMC, or Siemens doing their internal R&D versus sort of a more collaborative joint R&D program? And I'm wondering if you can sort of talk a little bit about some of those benefits.
Those R&D benefits absolutely happen and exist. One of the primary reasons that the owners are tending to lean onto a lot of the EP and EPC companies is simply driven by almost, if you want to call it, headcount. Owners just don't have the broad staff of engineering disciplines that an EPC will have. Owners will have engineers on board who are very specific to their operating process, and they're very knowledgeable people, and they're brilliant in their area. But if you go to the EPCs, they have a whole half a floor full of electrical engineers. Then they've got their rotating engineers, and they've got all the disciplines represented, like I said, from electrical to fire protection to process and within the process at EPCs, they'll break it down to they have engineers who specialize in LNG, ethylene, ethane, the different hydrocarbon molecules and stuff. They have specialists in various, desulfurization units and various ancillary skid-mounted units that get brought in. And so the owners are absolutely starting to partner with